Another thing I wrote down, Alan, from the site is another quote of no single measure of well-being is perfect, but many are adequate. And you just talked about that at length a moment ago. And Dacher, you talk about taking all those points together. How many points of data would you say are required to give you an accurate assessment of, I'm really getting into the weeds here, but how much is enough? At what point do you go, okay, this is a sufficient amount. I've got a good idea of what's going on with this person.
Yeah, I mean, that's another good question. And it depends on the application. It depends on what are the actual risks of what's going on. Because if you're trying to introduce, for example, a pharmaceutical drug to the population, then you have to be really rigorous about how you measure well-being, and you have to measure all the adverse outcomes. Like, they have a good sense of it, right? At least all in the negative domain. They don't measure any of the positives for some reason, even though they should. It should be also, how happy are you? Because if a drug made you less happy, but you were, symptoms were going away and you weren't diagnosed with this thing, but actually you were just you were not flourishing, you wouldn't want that either. Anyway, this is the same is true with AI, right? Like, if it's a high risk application of AI, you should have to deploy more measures to make sure that it's having a good impact. If it's really low risk, then I think it's probably fine to just take what you can get. It shouldn't be an obstacle, in other words, to developing the applications that are beneficial. It should, particularly when you have something that already is reading in video, reading in audio, it doesn't cost you anything to get objective measures of expression, assuming those measures exist, and we have those measures now. But it doesn't, you have those essentially, automatically in your data. You just need to measure them, right?
Yeah.
And I think that goes a long way. And then in terms of adding new measures like self-report, obviously it's difficult. You can't get self-report from all of your users all the time. Nobody's going to use something that's just constantly asking them how they're doing. No. So you use sampling methods. That's what science tells you, right? You sample a sufficient population of people, or sample of people, that you can make generalizations about the population, or the generalizations about the effect of the change that you're making, an A/B test. If you're introducing a new algorithm, you can, in some subset of users, say a week later, hey, how are you feeling? And make sure they're not feeling worse on average when that change is made. And so we make that recommendation. The problem with self-report is you can't always get it. So objective proxies are going to be the start a lot of the time. So optimize for the objective proxies, verify with self-report.